What's going on, everybody? You're back with the Prospect Talk podcast here with Eli, Doug, Fernando, and Danny.
What's up, boys?
What's going on?
It's a good day.
It is a good day.
Please don't tell me you're quoting Ice Cube again, Doug.
Nah. Ice Cube says today was a good day. I just said it was a good day. There's a difference.
Okay, thank you for the definition.
Yeah, from now on, no more Ice Cube quotes from you.
What are you talking about? I only quoted Ice Cube once.
That was one too many
That
times.
was like 3 weeks ago.
That was one too many times.
You guys get hyped up for no reason.
I guess.
Whatever.
Fernando, you looking... we got you on the webcam today. You're looking pretty cold. Is it cold up there in Virginia?
It's actually really nice weather over here, but my apartment is freezing right now. So,
You know, that's why they
close it
invented thermostats.
Yeah, you can change that. You know that, right?
I know, but the way that my AC system's set up over here, it's a little tough.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so let's get right into it, boys.
Yeah, what's the first thing that we got to talk about today?
Doug, start it off.
I think we should talk about the All-NBA teams that came out.
Yeah, of course.
Let's get right into it.
Right. So first of all, let's talk about who was on what team and all that. So you got that pulled up?
Yeah, so first team All-NBA, you got the GOAT, Steph Curry, Paul George, James Harden, Giannis, and Nikola Jokic.
Okay.
How you guys feeling about that?
I feel like based off of this one season, I think that's the combination you have to go with.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say those guys don't make that list. They just had some really great years altogether.
Yeah, you got to go off of the individual season, which I think a lot of people are forgetting to do. They're kind of going off of name, fame, Instagram followers, all of the above.
You got the 3 MVP finalists in there.
Yeah, so it's well-deserved. I think it's a good list.
I think the only guy that I guess like I'm okay with is like Jokic. But I mean, he had such a phenomenal season.
He had a great season.
But I just don't think he ever makes it to the All-NBA first team again.
Really?
I think this is his season.
I'm not sure I talked about it on the podcast, but I was actually telling you guys how much I like Jokic over Embiid as a center this year. And I think this proves it right here. So
This year or period? Because I think
right now, I think Jokic is
so
better.
right now, you think Jokic is a better center than Embiid?
Yes.
Absolutely not.
Well,
so it
first team just showed that I was correct.
Okay, so does that mean that Paul George is better than LeBron James and Kevin Durant?
He had a better year.
Okay, but that wasn't the question I just asked you.
And that's not what you just said.
Well, no, I was saying specifically for Jokic, for that position, I think he was better.
Yeah, but your facts was this first team All-NBA proves it. So by that logic...
It just proves my point even more.
So by your logic, then, Paul George is a better player than Kevin Durant.
Yeah, if that's your way of like
determining who's a better center.
Yeah.
No, I just said that he's a better center, and I'm stating that All-NBA supports that claim.
Okay, so if that's the only support of claim that you have, then it's very invalid because unless you come out and say today on the podcast that Paul George is a better small forward than Kevin Durant, then I don't want to hear it, Doug.
I don't think anybody agrees with that. I think people could agree that Paul George had a better season, but I can't say that Paul George is a better player than Kevin Durant.
So here's my take on this. I just think the way the NBA is today, where it's all about like shooting and spacing the floor, Jokic, I feel like, does that better than Embiid. And plus, he's a phenomenal passer. He's like one of the best passers for a big man in the league. So I think that's kind of what gives him the edge over Embiid. But in terms of a traditional center, Embiid fits that more. And I think he's especially better on the defensive end too.
Put it this way. If you made a top 10 list, I think Embiid makes the list over Jokic. He's a better basketball player in my eyes.
What, you're saying that Jokic doesn't make the top 10?
I'm not saying that, but I said Embiid would still be before.
Oh, gotcha. He comes on that list. Nando, what do you think? Who do you take?
Yeah, I personally think that Embiid is a better center. I think that, Doug, this year, yeah, maybe Jokic had a better year, but you're crazy to think that he's a better center than Embiid is.
Or even a better player at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he just had a phenomenal season, and I don't think that's going to happen again. Like I said, I think this is like...
Oh, I think this is just the tip of the iceberg for him.
What makes you say that?
He's gradually been improving his game season to season.
Yeah, but So exponential growth is one thing. Eventually, at some time, like people have to cap out.
Yeah, I mean,
They're going to plateau and they can no longer get any better. And I think this is his peak.
Oh, I strongly
And
disagree.
who's to say that Embiid didn't have like a down year? You know what I mean? Maybe next year Embiid could just come out and just dominate and have a unanimous All-NBA first team.
and
Yeah.
do you think Jokic puts up the same numbers he did in Philly, where Embiid has to fight with guys like scorers like Tobias Harris, Jimmy Butler, JJ Redick?
Well, and I think as Jamal Murray becomes more prominent in the offense and becomes more consistent, he'll start, taking more shots than Jokic.
And also, I'm going to put this out here right now. Do not forget the name Michael Porter Jr. He's coming back, and he's going to have a heck of a year. I'm calling it.
I think, I agree, but I think that we're also sleeping on the fact that we're talking about like the best center in the league. And when Boogie gets healthy, and if he can stay healthy,
He's better than Jokic.
he's better than Embiid.
I think they're 1A, 1B. You could go either or.
I think Boogie, if you have a healthy Boogie, number one center of the league, and he just does too many things too well.
I would agree a couple years ago, but Boogie's already on his higher years in the NBA. So
How old is Boogie?
I believe he's 31. I want to say. I'll double check that.
Well,
But-
let's go on to the second all-team, right?
Yeah.
So, second all-team, you're going to have Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, Kyrie Irving, Kawhi Leonard, and Damian Lillard. How do we feel about that one?
I feel like that's perfect. I'm fine with that.
I almost feel that this team would beat the first All-NBA team
I think so too.
if they played.
I was thinking that too right now, actually. I was like, I don't know. This
So
team's looking
let's
nice.
match it up. Let's match it up. We have Giannis, who I think Kawhi and Giannis will go back and forth, which we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
Then Jokic and Embiid.
Which
I
we're
think we have a
arguing-
3-1 vote that Embiid wins that.
Yeah.
And then Kyrie versus Steph. Kyrie's always had Steph's number,
He's locked them down.
always. And then you're gonna have Doug's boy Paul George versus his other boy Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant wins that.
Ooh, I don't know.
I think so. I think Kevin Durant
I think Kevin Durant
is the
in his best day is the most unstoppable offensive player. in the
Absolutely.
But
league.
are we talking about are we just looking at just this season's performances?
Yeah, this
or just
season.
yeah. Even this season, Kevin Durant at his
I-
peak this season, I take him.
I don't know.
No, I
PG
meant-
was lethal in the second
He
half of the
was. He was
season.
amazing.
But,
But
just
he
look
has
at
a
2
cap
weeks ago.
where Kevin Durant's cap, it's like a pay grade. Kevin Durant's pay grade is like pay grade 20, where Paul George's pay grade is like 17. It's just a little bit different. And then you have Damian Lillard versus Harden, where Harden has the advantage. But
Yeah, for sure. But I still think that team. I feel like the second. I would take the second team over the first team. all day.
absolutely.
All day. Just
I would too. Yeah.
And I
Oh.
feel like that combination of KD and Kawhi would just be absolutely
Oh my god.
monstrous. Like I don't think anybody in the league would be able to.
That's just amazing length and defensive ability right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who's on the third team?
Well, this is where I see some disagreements in. But for third team, we got Rudy Gobert, Blake Griffin, LeBron James, Kemba Walker, and Russell Westbrook.
First of all, why'd you say LeBron James?
Because I don't respect them, that's why.
Wow, Doug, you're so disrespectful, bro.
Put some respect on that name. Put some respect on it.
Nah, not until you put respect on Gordon Hayward's name, but that's another that's another subject.
Are you serious?
But I think Russell should have actually made second team over Dame.
No.
I think people at
Bro.
this point are just so anti-Russell Westbrook.
I think you have a good claim.
Look what he did to them in the playoff series. Dame.
This is a regular season award. We're not taking
No,
playoffs
no.
into account.
No, I'm sorry.
This is a regular season's award.
It is, but I'm gonna take in my own eyes, I'm gonna take playoffs into account just because when you evaluate players, you're not just looking at one part of the season. You're gonna look at their entire body of work, and I take Dame over Russ all day.
Oh, Russ again averaged a triple-double.
He did, but
That's a good point. I don't know, man.
what seed was his team?
That's tough. We've argued Westbrook.
His team
versus
was a
Dame.
higher seed than Damian Lillard's.
I'm pretty sure a couple weeks ago we all agreed that we take Dame over Russ.
Doug, that's not a fact. Because Portland was the 3 seed.
Yeah.
Wasn't Thunder 3 seed?
No.
Thunder scraped in.
Yes.
No, they didn't scrape in.
I think they were maybe like the 6th or the 7th.
They were the
seed.
6th seed.
I'm about to look
But
it up right now.
the
No, they're definitely in the top
Portland-
because they had
All right, let's
home
bet.
court.
Let's bet. Doug,
They had home court.
We're doing a
Just
live
pull it
bet
up,
right
pull
now,
it up.
and you're checking
live bet.
right now.
Doug, you owe me a meal right after we're finished.
All right.
All right. Oh, you heard it. I love how Nando looks dumbfounded right now.
Yeah, Nando is
I think he's
absolutely
just
like shook. Who do you take, Nando? Russ or Dame?
I'll be honest, I've been riding behind Russ this entire time, but I just feel like people were just really hype on Damian Lillard here for this playoff. I want to hear the stats.
So I just think that this was the first time that we got to see Dame at his peak on a national scale for everyone to see, and now everyone's realizing how good he is. Because it's been long said over and over again for the past couple of years that Dame is one of the most underrated players in the league. But he just played in Portland, and they never got any national TV games. I mean, occasionally they did, but
Dame's definitely a good player.
But I think I still take Dame over Russ. And you guys know, maybe it's just I'm biased just because I hate Russ.
Yeah, it's definitely because you're biased.
Let me not say I hate Russ. Obviously, what he does is impressive. I think that Dame would do more for my team. Well, not say more, but I think I would be able to build around Dame a lot easier.
Because you can't say he could do more.
Yeah, I think I could build better around Dame than Russ.
Well, this is not like...
So many people feel negatively about Russ, though. I feel like he kind of has that mentality already labeled on him.
Well, because
You know what I
people
mean?
look at him as a stat chaser. You know what I mean? I think that's the reason why he has... Like, people have so many negative things to say about him.
He's not a very well-liked guy in the NBA.
Because he's a stat chaser.
But what do you have to say, Doug? Because you've been trying to pull up stats for like 5 minutes now.
All right, so I'm going to give you... You're right. I was wrong. I'll give you that.
Wow.
So they were
No,
the
no.
6th seed.
Can you say it one more time?
Nah, I only say it once.
That's the thumbnail.
We found our new thumbnail.
Doug will never admit sometimes when he's wrong. He'll play it off and he'll argue it until he's blue into the face.
Nah. I always admit when I'm wrong. You guys refuse to admit when you're wrong.
That's probably true.
But it's also because we're never wrong.
That's also true.
Pull up last week's podcast as evidence.
I don't know. I feel like me and Eli are always right about everything.
Yep.
Very
Even
true.
when we're going against each other, we're both right.
Facts.
That means you're wrong right there.
What?
What?
What'd you say?
That means you're wrong right there if you think you're right about
Oh,
everything.
gosh.
Well, that was the purpose of what I was saying. I was saying even when we're wrong, we're right.
So, a heated debate. Do you think Kemba deserves that third team?
Why did I think he was going to define the words heated debate?
What's good with you, bro? I'm just trying to ask a question here.
You know what it is we're so used to Doug just saying dumb shit that we were fully getting ready to just roast him. But that was actually a pretty good question. Congratulations.
Repeat the question. I actually didn't hear it.
So he's talking
In
about
one
if
year out the other.
if Kemba deserves to be on that third team. And I think he does.
I think so. He had a hell of a year.
Yes. I mean, once again, he doesn't really have much on his team. But
He has nothing to play with, and he got them into the playoffs by himself.
But how,
Oh, sorry. No, he didn't.
No.
He fell a couple games short.
Yeah.
But still, bro.
He almost willed them by himself. But what part of that do you think is like the Gordon Hayward / Kevin Love effect? Were they just good because of the best of the bad situation?
Well,
no,
he's been
Kemba's
in
a baller
he's been in that situation for a while, though.
since college.
Yeah, and plus this is his career year, so.
But I'd like to see him play with another big name guy, or like at least just like a solid number two. Just
His best player has been Jeremy Lamb for the last 5 years beside him.
Well,
and him and Lamb won a title together at UConn, but geez, come on, get Kemba some help, Michael.
He at least had like Nick Batum a couple years ago, who was at least a little better than what he is now. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but-
he's always been doing it by himself.
Yeah, he's
I don't
by
think you
himself.
can consider Nick Batum like solid two in the league. He's a decent role player, but that's about it. It'll be nice to see where Kemba ends up with, who he ends up playing with.
So before we leave all NBA, let's talk about the guy who had a lot to say today, and that's Klay Thompson,
Your
Doug's
boy Clay, Doug.
My boy.
I'll let you lead the conversation with this. What do you think about that?
I think it's tough because I think Klay is one of the top 15 players in the NBA. But
Wow,
yeah.
absolutely
Oh.
not.
Bro,
Clay is one of the best players in the NBA.
But go ahead and finish your statement.
But I think he's a top 15 player in the NBA.
Bro, he's not even a top 5 player in the West.
Oh.
At his
Okay.
So,
Maybe not in the West.
No,
but...
I'm talking about like at his position. There's
No.
Not at his position, but to quote Klay Thompson, do I think there are that many guards better than me, which is 6, because that's how many make the All-NBA, the first, second, and third combined? And he said no. So he thinks that he's better than at least.
But that's what I'm saying. He's not even top 5 as a guard in the Western Conference.
I personally think he's better than Kemba, but I think Kemba had a better year, so he's more deserving of the All-NBA.
You know what it is Kemba does more for his team than Klay does. So
absolutely. You put Klay on the Hornets, and they're in the lotto. They got the number 1 pick right now.
He averages 30 points a game.
But I don't think he can create for other people.
What? You think Klay Thompson averages 30 a game?
If he doesn't play with Steph and KD, where he has to split the shots.
I'll give him 26, but not 30.
I think low 20s.
You underrate how quick Klay could score if he gets those shots.
Yeah, but we've also seen how cold Klay can get, and he relies on Steph to bail him out in big games.
Dude, Klay
is Mr. Big Game. He actually has had more big games than Steph Curry.
No, he has good quarters of big games.
No. Game 6, Klay.
Bro, Klay goes cold for 3 months every season.
Well, he averages about 15 shots a game for the Warriors team.
There's no way he doesn't create his own shot. He cannot go onto a team with no other scores and average 27.
And he doesn't create for other people. That's why I say I'll take Kemba over him. They run 2 different positions.
Klay's such a great player, and he's the best at what he does in the NBA by far. But he needs Steph to get him into those positions to shoot the corner threes, the double backdoor screens, all of that.
Well,
we said this before on other podcasts that the reason why Klay is so effective at what he does is because he's part of that Warrior system when he does that. If you put him somewhere else, you don't know if he can create those shots again. And Kemba, he's going to get those shots up anytime.
Anywhere.
You know what I mean?
We won't know about Klay until we see it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then we can settle the debate. But I don't think he deserves to be in the, considered as one of the top 6 guards.
Absolutely not.
No. I'll give him top 10.
Yeah, maybe top 10, but 6 guards. But I'm not sitting shooting guards, but
just guards. Because that's how they evaluate that. But I also wouldn't say that he's a top 15 player in the NBA. Absolutely not.
I would say it is. Just looking at this list.
I don't even know what to say because I'm just dumbfounded.
There was that awkward silence because we didn't know what to say.
Yeah, everyone's just looking at each other like shook because we don't know what to say to you. Because
if I'm comparing it just for this All-NBA team, I think he's a better player than Blake Griffin and Kemba Walker.
Bro, Blake Griffin will ball on Klay Thompson.
Well, it's just that he's also bigger, but
Blake can create his own shot.
And Klay, I think, has proven that he needs somebody else to create for him. I don't think he can create on his own. And
the craziest thing, his biggest point about that is scoring 63 points on 9 dribbles. That legit says,
but I don't think that's indicative of Klay not being able to.
I'm not saying he can't score. That's saying you can't create. Bro. No. 9 dribbles?
I think that's just more of that offense works in such a way where Klay doesn't necessarily have to put the ball on the floor because they cut so well.
And that's what I'm saying. So take him out of that. And he's not doing that.
But that's also not like, I don't think you can use that stat as a way to be like, oh, Klay can't create a shot.
No,
because that offense works so well that he doesn't necessarily have to put the ball on the court. At least not that game. You know what I mean?
I disagree. I think it's a perfect example because that's saying you can score so much without creating anything because you've benefited off of guys putting you in positions to score.
Yeah, but it would be different if, let's say he shot like 70%. I'm just talking about that game. Let's say he shoots 70% without dribbling, and then he shoots like 30% while dribbling. Then I would give you that and say when he puts the ball on the court, he can't create for his own. But he never got that opportunity in that game. So using that one single game as like a way to say that he can't create is
just the way the Warriors use him. They don't ask him to put the ball on the floor.
That's what I'm saying. So like you can't say that just yet.
Yeah, but I think he has shown that ability in previous games.
I don't think so. You ever seen Klay dribble the ball?
He shows flashes. His ball handling isn't what it should be.
It's not top tier ball handling.
Okay.
But I still think he has pretty decent low post moves for a guard.
Bro, how many offenses run off of a low post? Like
For
a guard in a low post? Very few.
A couple. It depends on like matchups.
All right, I'm tired of talking, Clay. Let's talk about what's really going on in the NBA, and that's my boy Drake.
Yeah. What's good with him?
Yeah, what's good with your boy Drake?
You know what it is that Drake has suffered from the Drake curse for so much that the teams that he roots for usually lose. So now that he has a team that's finally like winning some games and has a shot at going to the finals, he don't know how to act.
Well, he's always been acting a fool on the court.
Oh. Okay.
He's like the new Spike Lee.
Yeah, but I mean, why is there a problem? Is there a problem?
Bro, he massages the coach's like shoulders in the middle of the game.
Bro, he got hype.
But
Nick Nurse was looking tense.
I think also that people are forgetting how animated Spike Lee used to get, where there were, I mean, look at the 30 for 30 with him and Reggie Miller. Spike became part of that game, and I think this is just a repeat for that. You know what I mean? Now, it's blown out of proportion because of
Jack
social media
Nicholson
now.
does it.
Not to that degree.
No, not today, but he used to back in the day
talks.
when he was able to walk and talk.
Those guys are more talkers, but like Drake, he's like almost on the court.
Bro, Spike
like
Lee
half the game.
Spike Lee used to do the same stuff.
Nah, he never got into the court like that.
After this, I'm gonna pull up a video and I'm gonna show you, and
All
you're
right.
gonna pay for my meal as well.
All right.
Damn, we're both getting meals today.
I'm not even betting you. I'm telling you what's gonna happen.
I'm just saying, like the way Drake does it, like he gets in players' faces. Like
Whose face did he get in?
bro?
Like, you make it sound like he's trying to like square up on the court.
Yeah, he's not.
He's
He doesn't
yapping.
interact with the players like face to face. He's on the sidelines like yelling airball and stuff, but that's about it.
I'm just talking about Drake's history.
But also, you have to remember that Drake puts a lot of money into that team too.
Absolutely, that man should be roughing the freaking game.
Isn't his logo like on the arena?
No, on our practice arena. It's
On the practice
now the OVO practice arena.
And on the practice jerseys too.
Yeah.
So like he funnels a lot of money into that in that team. You know, if I'm the owner and I'm the GM, go ahead, Drake, do whatever you want.
Yeah,
long
Masai
as-
has no problem with it.
That's what I'm. Yeah, I, for that reason right there, I agree. He does so much for the team that go ahead, do whatever you want. And I don't think that like he does it like maliciously or no. He just gets hype into the game. And Danny, I gotta agree with you. Spike Lee used to really get into it. He used to really like go after either the other team or kind of get really hyped up into the game. But I personally I love it. I'm like, yo, Drake, get in there, bro.
I
Do what you
Absolutely.
want.
I think
You're-
it brings
you're
the
a huge fan.
entertainment factor to the game.
Yes, it's great for the NBA. You have one of the biggest like artists on the face of the planet right now, and he's out there helping you promote your NBA brand. So even people that aren't even NBA fans are going to be like, yo, you see what Drake's doing in that game? And it draws their attention to that. It's great for PR.
Yeah, that just doesn't like Drake.
That's true. I think he's overrated.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
What?
I think he's one of the most overrated rappers in history.
So the thing is, I don't classify him as a rapper. I classify him as an artist. There's a difference.
Listen, and even
Is it
when
just
he
he's
does
overrated
rap,
in that subject too.
listen, when he does rap, my boy gets busy.
He spits bro,
Bro.
how dare you disrespect
Hey,
Drake like
I
that?
think he's really good.
You
but-
don't ever
Oh,
get on
no.
this podcast and disrespect Drake.
We
Doug.
might have to kick you off this podcast if you disrespect Drake one more time.
Absolutely.
Hey,
Pull his mic. We're done.
I'm yanking the cable out. That's it. You're cut off. You're not allowed to talk no more. How dare you? Put some respect on that name.
Please. Anyways,
all right. I put respect on what's his real name? Aubrey.
Aubrey. Don't disrespect Aubrey. How dare you?
Aubrey's a manlier name than Doug.
What's good with you?
Yeah, let's get back on track because we didn't even intend to talk about Drake in the podcast. So the other thing that happened this week outside of the playoffs is Magic Johnson
Going on first take.
going on first take and kind of spitting out what was bothering him. And he felt like he was being backstabbed by Rob Pelinka. He felt like there was a lot of Chiefs and not enough Indians. I think.
The hell type of analogy is that?
Yeah, I never heard that.
I've
one.
never heard that. one.
I've heard it. It's a baseball thing, okay?
Oh, all right.
Relax.
You uncultured swine. How have you never heard that before?
So first of all, they're Native Americans, not Indians, but it's all good.
I apologize. So he pretty much saying that too many people had too much input on the team, and he felt like when he was handed the job, he was given the power to kind of make decisions as he saw fit, and he was Genie Bus was allowing a lot of people to give input that was kind of contradicting what he wanted to do.
So he kind of said the straw that broke the camel's back was pretty much he wanted to fire Luke Walton, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he had a meeting. He had 3 meetings. First meeting where he presented it to Jeannie Buss, and she was like, "I don't know. I like Luke. I got to sleep on it." So very next day they have a second meeting. He convinces her. So she's like, "All right, go ahead and do it." So he's ready to fire Luke Walton. He gets an email saying, "Come back in for a third meeting." Third meeting, there's like 3 other people in the room, people who are below his position, who are fighting against him, saying, "No, we got to keep Luke." And then Genie decided to go with those people, and he was like, "All right, I obviously don't have that power here."
A key instrument in one of those people is the Lakers' president of business. I think his name's Tom Harris.
Yes.
Tim Harris.
Tim
Harris.
Yeah.
So what a lot of people don't know is that he actually has a personal relationship with Luke Walton.
Yeah.
And he was, according to Magic, he was a big factor in changing Genie's mind to being like, no. And for a guy that's, the president of business operations, you're talking about ticket pricing, you're talking about like marketing, all that stuff. What you have to say about the actual on-court product means zero, right? Because you're not technically a basketball mind. That's why you bring Magic on there as the basketball aficionado.
And then throughout the whole process, Magic said that Rob Pelinka was just talking behind his back the whole time.
He was backstabbing him.
Backstabbing him, like he said. Not just to inside the organization, but outside the organization. And Magic's the most affiliated person with the LA Lakers. So, of course, that got back to him.
And that looks bad because that's essentially the face of your franchise. Like him and Kobe. Kobe, and like Kareem. I would say are the 3 biggest Lakers of all time.
Jerry West.
Oh, Jerry West, sorry.
Yeah.
So 4 biggest Lakers. That's like the Mount Rushmore of LA basketball. And to have that publicly like out there just looks bad for the organization.
Well, and it's so weird because Kobe's best friend is Rob Pelinka.
Well, I mean,
This is OG agent.
yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
I mean, homie was getting him.
But Pelinka's dirty, man. I can't stand
Well,
Rob
and
Pelinka.
remember a couple months ago, there was a report that Magic accidentally got forwarded an email, like bad talking him. So, I mean, at this point, you have to assume that it was a email that Pelinka wrote.
So here's my take on Magic. I think hiring him was a mistake to begin with. That's like, to reiterate your analogy, too many cooks in the kitchen. Like, to have a successful organization, you need to have... Let's go, Julie.
Chill. My analogy was way better.
All right.
And it's way more commonly known.
Nah, but...
we'll put that on the Twitter poll.
But you need to have, like, an understanding from the top of the organization all the way down to the bottom if you want to have a successful organization.
But I think there was, and I think the person who was trying to undermine Magic was Rob Pelinka.
No, but as you said, Magic also said the other Bus siblings were trying to...
But he said he was cool with it.
Yeah.
He said he was cool with it. Like, he talked to them, and like they worked it out, and they were good.
But I also think there's major miscommunication because, they kind of used against him, according to Magic, once again, it's all hearsay at this point, but according to Magic, they used against him the fact that he said, like, hey, I have other business ventures, and I'm not going to be able to be in the office.
See, that's why I think it was a mistake to hire him to begin with.
But 100%, if you expect him to be there full time, then yeah, it's a mistake. But if you give him the go ahead and say, no, we understand, we just want you to be part of this, I don't think you can use that against him when you're saying, look, you're never in the office, when in reality you gave him the go ahead.
And Magic Johnson even said that he told Rob Pelinka he was only going to be there for 3 years.
But how could you have a part-time president of operations?
Listen, that's not Magic's fault.
No, it's not.
That's Genie Bus's
Bus's fault.
100%. And you're saying you're okay with that at first, and then you realize, oh shit, like this isn't actually working out, and I made a bad decision.
Yeah, and plus if you're Rob, for example, you're coming in, you have daily operations, and then some guy who hasn't been in office at all just comes in and says, all right, you're doing this instead. Like, it just doesn't look good. So I understand where Rob's coming from, where he's saying he doesn't trust Magic. He thinks Magic's not putting in the work. When the guy just comes in at random times, it just tells you to do something different.
Yeah, I guess. I think that's just a bad fit overall. I think Pelinka's a bad fit as a GM. I think Magic's a bad fit as a president of baseball operations.
It's a lot of bad things going on in LA
I
right
don't think
now.
that's a good mix. That front office doesn't seem organized at all. You have too many people that are giving too much input. And I'm not surprised as why there's a lot of coaches that didn't want to be part of that organization.
Yeah, it didn't really seem that professional. There was, a lot of people going into that decision-making process. Like, I see why he did it. He didn't feel like he had power, but no, you gotta tackle that from within, and that starts from the top. So yeah,
he got a full-time job with part-time hours. That's what happened.
But that's the life right there. That's the dream.
Magic was living life. Let's move on to football. And Fernando, you had an interesting topic. I'm gonna have you bring that up.
Yeah, definitely. So recently, Chris Long, who played for the Eagles recently, and he just retired this past year. He came out and stated that in his tenure in the league, he did his fair share of smoking some Mary Jane. So the topic really
first of all, are you 70 years old?
What happened?
Are you 70 years old? Who refers to it as?
I gotta spice it up for the podcast.
That's like, what is wrong with you?
Having some of that devil's lettuce.
Nando's never actually had some Mary Jane.
Grandpa Nando over here. Sorry to cut you off. Continue.
Uncle Drew's over here. No, so the topic really was in the league with the recreational drug testing. So they only do it once a year. It's a predetermined date, so all the players know when it's going to happen. So Chris pretty much said it, and a lot of the players in the league, have pretty much said that, like, hey, we're aware of it. We do it on the side. Like, it's not a huge deal. So should the NFL really just kind of turn a blind eye to it if people are going to do it anyways, which is better than alcohol or other drugs?
I don't think they can do that. I don't think they can turn a blind eye. It'll look too bad for the league. I think maybe behind the scenes they give a little bit more leniency, but I don't know. What I think they need to do is they need to get a little bit smarter about their testing. So maybe not give as much heads up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I think like, if you give the players like an exact date, then obviously they're going to know how to work around
but
it. So.
They do random testing, but you get a letter saying like, hey, you're going to be tested. Like they'll get after the game, they'll be like, hey, you're going to get tested. And the test is not for another week or two or something like that.
Who was the player from the Panthers? Eric Reed, who got tested like 9 times last season.
Yeah, for his protests.
But that's only when they like, because when they like pick out guys that they think they might be on some shit.
Yeah, but 9 times is ridiculous.
Like the regular screening process is you get like a way like ahead of notice, saying like, hey, you're in a month. And that's the one that everyone takes. So if you're a guy that flies under the radar a little bit and they don't pick you randomly in the middle of the season, I'm sure you'll never get caught because you know how to cheat the system. That's what I'm saying, that they shouldn't give as much as much of a notice for that.
It should be on the spot like back in high school, like, hey, line up, drug test.
Yeah. I remember in high school, like
everybody would be effed.
Yeah, like after right after class, like before you started practice, you'd be like, all right, it's time everyone got to do their drug test.
People were swapping pee.
Well, I mean, not me.
I don't want that visual on my head.
Right. Not me. No, speak for yourself. I have a good, clean, pristine image to maintain.
Sure.
No, I think the NFL definitely has to refine their drug policy.
The NFL has to refine a lot of things.
It's just, I feel like they're so old.
They do, but I just don't think the drug policy is that important to the NFL.
I think it's important in terms of just marketing and PR, because if you start turning a blind eye, or if you start publicly giving more leniency to guys that are failing drug tests, it just creates a bad image for the NFL. And then, little by little, you start having people that disagree with it, that have strong like values when it comes to that, and you'll start losing fans.
I don't think they should be doing drug tests, period. Like, honestly, they're smoking marijuana to get over an injury. Just do it. I don't
what if they're shooting up heroin mid-game?
All right, that's a little bit
exactly.
different.
So you can't.
That was the argument. So like it's recreational drugs.
Yeah,
what he was saying.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah.
Instead of Vontae Davis retiring at halftime, he goes up there and shoots up. Like,
all right. Yeah.
You can't have that
for hard. Yeah, I'm talking about recreational. You're
talking about hard narcotics and stuff like
exactly.
that. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think that's something that'll ever be perfected, because I feel like I'm a big believer in, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. So you're always going to find those guys that are going to be trying to find loopholes, which
There always will be one.
The most competitive guys on earth are always going to try to find a competitive edge. That's just the way it is, right? That's how strategies are born. That's how,
especially like when that difference could be you making 1 million or 8 million.
Exactly. When it comes to your livelihood, there's always going to be guys trying to cheat the system. I don't think there's going to be anything anybody could ever do to negate that.
Yeah, I would say that's a good way to sum this up.
No, they're hustling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would too. You can't. Can you blame them?
No, not at all. Like I said, I think you hit it on the nose. You know what I want to hit on the nose right now? Let's talk QB. Because off air, we've been talking a lot of crap about who's going to perform and who's not. Okay? So I'm going to go around the room. I want you guys to name me one QB, and you're going to name one that you think is either underrated or overrated going into the NFL 2019 season.
Okay.
And give me a little reason why. Don't just say a name and next,
Oh, I've got reasons for mine. I got you right now.
All right.
You want me to begin?
Yeah, since you Mr. Reasons, go ahead.
Big Ben. Sorry, Nando. Big Ben is underrated. Sorry, overrated as hell. Overrated as hell going into this upcoming season.
I second that.
Why is that?
One, let's be real. Even though his numbers, and I know this is what you're going to say, I know this is your one rebuttal for this, his numbers were great last season, but he also had 3 of some of the best weapons in the league last year and years before. You know what I mean? He had a great offensive line. He had an AB, who's probably one of the best wide receivers in the league. He had the best number 2 wide receiver in the league. He had Connor that went off, and even the season before that, and the season before that, you had Le'Veon. Now we're going to finally see Big Ben without a lot of weapons, and he's really just going to have 2 guys, and I think his game falls off this year.
I don't think so, because even at the beginning of his career, when he was throwing to Hines Ward, who was older and whatnot, they were still winning Super Bowls.
But
I think Big Ben's good.
Chill. Hines Ward, at that point in his career, could still be an effective guy, and he was still a weapon.
He was still a good player, but definitely towards the end of his career.
But that's also when Big Ben had more in the tank.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with that, but I disagree with your statement. I think Big Ben's a really good quarterback.
I think he's way overrated.
So is he properly rated, underrated, or overrated?
I'm going to let Mr. Big Ben talk here.
He's biased.
Obviously, I'm not going to say he's overrated. No, I think that he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback, bro. Like you have to wait maybe to
but
see.
But so is Eli Manning, and you don't hear me
really
saying
bombs it or tanks it. Then all right, obviously you can say something, but you can't blame him for having those weapons and being able to produce with those weapons these years.
But your whole theory is that not Eli Manning, that he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback, when in reality so is Eli Manning, but you don't hear me saying that he's properly rated.
Yeah.
Eli Manning's probably one of the most overrated quarterbacks in the league.
No, but that's more black and white. We all know that.
And I'm telling you, I know that Big Ben is overrated.
Yeah, but right now you're just making a prediction. You can't say that off of his last couple of seasons.
Based off of last season, no. But seasons prior, it's not like
and if you just watch his games, he overthrows a lot of his players. Like Antonio Brown and Juju has saved them on so many of those throws.
Big Doug, stop. You're talking like you watch the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I do watch the Pittsburgh Steelers.
No, you don't, Doug.
I do.
He can't watch the Niners because they suck, so he has to watch some.
I just think that Big Ben, being the size that he is, being as mobile as he is,
but he's not as mobile anymore.
Find that in the game a lot. I feel like his weapons that he has, obviously they help him out, but I just think he's able to come kind of at the end of the play, maybe scramble and make something out of nothing.
Yeah, he's hard to tackle. You've seen it's hard to sack Big Ben.
But just because he's bigger, but he's not as mobile as he used to be.
He's not as mobile, but he still has that big arm, why he's called Big Ben as well. He's good, man.
He's called Big Ben because he's big.
He's big.
He's never been that big. He's gotten bigger. But I disagree with you guys. We're going to have to see on this one.
Have you seen the video?
I'm just telling you, wait next season. He's going to have a down year, a big down year.
The video of Big Ben in training camp last year when, the quarterbacks are going through quarterback drills, dodging pads, like if they were, defensive ends. And Big Ben just completely Hollywoods it and just is like shoving them out of the way with his hands and taking it as a joke. I think that's more indicative of who he is as a player. Bad work ethic and bad leader.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely a bad leader.
Well, no, I mean, this past, recently, he actually came out and said that, hey, the way that I handled the AB situation was, that was on me, that was my fault. So, I mean, he's owning up to it.
That doesn't mean he's a
put it
good
a little
leader. He
differently,
just
but-
admitted he was a bad leader. That's all he did.
But I think I think it's probably been like that for his whole career, and now it's just coming.
Well,
to
he's
light.
never had to be the leader. Steelers have always had guys like James Harrison, Porter.
What's that old wide receiver?
Even
Palomalo was a leader.
yeah, I was just about to say that. Even back in the day,
he's never had to be the leader.
Hines Ward.
Hines
Ward.
Ward.
When Ben was younger. I don't know. I think for me, that's my guy that I say is.
All right, Doug, you're next. Let's see what bullshit you got to say.
He agree with me.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I got somebody who's underrated right now that people sleep on. Andy Dalton. I think he's
shit.
What?
Look. See, you guys think so too, but I think he's actually an underrated quarterback.
Wait, so your argument is saying that he's the most underrated
No,
guy?
I would
It
say
doesn't have
he's
to be
up there.
most, but-
He's up there as one of the most underrated guys.
All right, let me hear your reasoning, please.
This guy, he completes over 60% of his passes. He has all except last year. Last year was kind of his down year. But except for last year, he's thrown over 3,000 yards every single year of his career, even his rookie season. He threw 21 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, which is about average. Pretty good QBR.
Man,
So,
all right,
so
I'm going to cut you off.
You literally just said average, and everyone
No,
knows
no,
that
no.
he's an average.
No,
quarterback.
I said 21 and 11, like his
That's
touchdown.
average. 3,000 yards, unfortunately, is becoming average.
If you look at the weapons he's been throwing to, like AJ Green's been injured a lot these last couple of seasons. He doesn't really have a second option. The running game has been mediocre, except for like a couple of seasons of Bernard in there.
I guess if you were to throw closer to like 4,000 yards every season, I would say yeah, he's super underrated. But I feel like 3,000 yards, everyone does that now. Dak does that now.
Watch your mouth.
But he has a couple of seasons where he's thrown over 4,000.
Oh no, I
and-
know.
And I bet you those are AJ Green's best years. I think AJ Green has to do a lot with Andy Dalton's numbers.
Absolutely.
Well, he's been injured, and I think you could say that about Julio Jones doing that to Matt Ryan.
Yeah, I
there's
agree.
a lot. Like
I agree. Julio
there's
makes
a lot
Matt
of
Ryan-
players that you could say that about.
Yeah, of course, but no one's arguing that Matt Ryan's underrated. That's the difference.
Yeah, but the disrespect that people have for Andy Dalton.
No one's disrespecting him. He's an average
He's
quarterback.
I think he's rated perfectly.
I
I,
think
don't
he's
think someone
properly
says he's
rated.
garbage.
He might be slightly above average,
Yeah, he's just an average QB.
and that's
you know?
where people rate him. So I think he's properly.
He's
No,
not
I
gonna
think he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league.
I give you a D minus for
So-
that assessment.
What do you consider better quarterbacks in the league? Because that's a very big statement there.
Because technically, if you say he's
Like-
one of the better quarterbacks in the league, that means he's what, top 15?
Which he's absolutely not.
Yeah, I would put him in the top 15. I rate him obviously higher than you guys do.
If he's top 15, I gave him maybe 14 or 15, which once again I think is a proper rating for him.
Yeah, which is average. There's 32 teams.
Yeah.
That puts him in the middle. He's
So
an average
top
QB.
16. Yeah, he's about where everyone puts him.
Well, no, everybody ranks him as one of the worst quarterbacks in the league as far as
No,
starting
no,
quarterbacks.
no one
Yes,
does that.
definitely. You
No
guys
one does that.
obviously don't hear the same things I do.
Obviously not, because I don't know where you're getting. One of the worst quarterbacks in the league is Nathan Peterman. No one's
I'm talking about starting quarterbacks. Nate
Nathan
Peterman.
Peterman.
Okay,
started
yeah,
last year.
but I don't ever hear people say some of the worst quarterbacks in the league, and then they say Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
He's always
They've been begging Andy Dalton to be replaced for the past 3-4 seasons.
because why do you want an average quarterback? He should be replaced. He has
no,
done
I think
nothing.
he's an above average quarterback.
We're
So
agreeing
above
with you.
average-
We're just saying he's slightly above average, and that's where people are rating him. You're saying he's underrated. We're saying he's properly rated.
Yeah, I think he's
No, I
properly
think he's
rated.
underrated.
Well, you've said that.
Yeah, well,
We're
yeah.
telling you you're wrong.
And I'm telling you, you're wrong.
So remember earlier when I
But
said
Doug,
that me
I don't
and
think
Eli
you
are never
really
wrong?
get it. We're not arguing that he's bad or good. We're just saying he's rated where he should be.
And I'm saying he's rated lower than he should be.
Nah, man, I think he's rated where he should be. But let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, because we're
'Cause
going
I
in
don't think-
circles at this point.
Yeah,
I
we're
give
not
you
gonna agree.
a D minus for that assessment once again.
Shut up. Continue.
I know what you wanted to say just now.
Shut
I know
up.
what you wanted to say. Well, you know what?
Let's move on to Nando. Let's just move on to Nando.
Yeah, everyone look out for the outtakes on YouTube because you might hear something funny.
What's good with you?
Nando, who's your guy?
All right, I'm gonna go with overrated QBs, and I actually think that Kirk Cousins would be my pick for an overrated QB.
Oh, I agree 100%.
I think that $84 million contract that he got with them was just too much for what he's going to give you. Yeah, he took him to the championship game in the NFC, but
that wasn't him. That was Keenum, actually.
Yeah, I think at that point he was still with Washington.
Yeah, it kind of feels like it was him because he got paid like he did, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah, exactly. I mean, that team has so many offensive weapons. Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen. I think they overpaid him way too much. I think he's a decent QB. I wouldn't put him at that.
I absolutely agree.
Player level.
They got worse by adding Kirk Cousins.
But I think last year's disappointment isn't all on him because their offensive line underperformed, at least in terms of their pass protection. And he didn't get a lot of time to throw the ball, unfortunately. But I agree with Nando that he is a very overrated quarterback. I hated him in Washington, and I still continue to hate him in Minnesota.
Well, I disagree with that because he actually had a similar career year last year than he did the previous years. So Minnesota knew what they were paying for.
So that's just looking at stats and not actually giving it an eye test.
But he's overrated. You're saying he deserved that contract?
Exactly.
No, I'm just saying
if they did pay him that, then they overvalued him.
Yeah, you could say that they overvalued him, but I don't think they could say paying him to what he's performed to.
But that makes no sense.
No,
because what he's performed to hasn't warranted that kind of contract. That's what we're saying. I think you're confused.
I think I am too. So,
yeah, you are.
So what are you saying?
We'll clarify it for you, Doug. Kirk Cousins is an overrated quarterback because he did not perform to his contract.
Okay,
Hey, we got to spell it out for this guy.
But I'm saying he's performed like that his entire career. So,
but do you think that warrants the kind of contract that he got in any way, shape, or form?
probably doesn't warrant the contract.
So then he's overrated.
So then he's overrated.
Yeah.
No, you could say that he didn't perform up to his contract standards, but I don't know.
But they gave him that contract based off of a false image of what he is.
No, they paid him the money he. Okay, I can see what you mean.
Exactly.
Overrated.
You were literally
I'm saying he's not overrated. I'm saying that he's properly like what he did in Washington is what Minnesota rated him as. So he's the same rating to me.
Yeah, but he was an overrated QB in Washington too.
Exactly.
Like, he's a decent quarterback.
For somebody to
What
get
the
paid,
hell are you saying?
yeah,
Doug?
you don't even make sense. For someone to get paid that much, to be the highest paid player ever in the NFL, to perform like Kirk Cousins, what he did in Washington to your defense, he's overrated.
This is not a good showing for you this week, Doug.
I don't know.
Let's go with you, bro.
Yeah, I'm giving
I'm
your
just
entire
saying.
performance on this episode a
All
D
right,
minus.
Eli, what's your pick?
All right, maybe you come stronger with this, Doug.
He's gonna say Dak, and then we're gonna get into another argument.
No.
again.
That would be too easy. I'm gonna go with overrated,
Okay.
and I'm gonna go with Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, you're an idiot.
He's an overrated quarterback in this.
I'm gonna go for that one.
He's an overrated quarterback, hands down.
Eli's an Aaron
All right.
Rodgers hater.
So
No.
tell me how he's overrated.
Yeah, just hear me out, okay?
Keep in mind, he had one of the worst offensive lines in football last year. Very little weapons.
A lot of people have. But, anyways, Aaron Rodgers is an overrated quarterback. Now, don't get the words mixed up. He's a great quarterback. He's still a great quarterback. But he's overrated, okay? He's not as great as everybody puts him up to be. When you think of the top quarterbacks in the league, everybody says, Rodgers, Brady. For a lot of the time when Brady's not winning Super Bowls, they'll be Rodgers. He's the best quarterback, which he's not.
I give Rodgers top 5. I wouldn't give him top 2.
Yeah, that's a good assessment. But a lot of people have him top 2. And a lot of people are even putting him in, they're comparing him to some of the greats. I don't think he's even better than Brett Favre.
I agree.
Oh, ooh.
I agree.
I don't think he is.
I think he's definitely better than Brett Favre.
Absolutely not. Not to me.
I don't think
Aaron Rodgers, the last 3 seasons?
Talk about overrated. Brett Favre is one of the most overrated quarterbacks.
Absolutely not. But that's another debate. Let me finish.
This dude's a turnover machine, but continue.
he's a gunslinger. That's what happens. Continue.
Okay. So Aaron Rodgers, the last 4 seasons, hasn't even made the playoffs. Okay, his team has been 6-9-1, 7-9, 8-8. He's played very mediocre, and in big games, he's not good. He had one good playoff run with a great team, and after that, he's done nothing. He puts up a lot of stats because that's what he does. Because he's a great quarterback, he's going to put up stats. But in the big game, do you really want Aaron Rodgers? Or do you want another quarterback like Drew Brees or Tom Brady? I would even say Pat Mahomes
I was
today.
just about to say that. You took the words right out
There's
of my
so
mouth.
many other great quarterbacks that are better than him. And he's constantly put at this pedestal as You know, this guy is almost like Jesus getting compared to. Like, it's crazy.
So you're saying that
All right.
people still remembering like Aaron Rodgers like
From
5
10 years ago when he
still
won
considering him.
a Super Bowl, but he's not
Yeah.
what people think he is.
So where do you rate him as a quarterback in the league?
He's definitely a top 5 quarterback, but people have ranked Aaron Rodgers against some of the greats where I don't even think he's deserved that.
No, I agree with you, and especially I had him on my fantasy team last year. and it was a
Absolutely.
disappointment.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Not to get me wrong, he's a great quarterback. I'm not saying he's not.
He has a great skill set.
Great skill set. One of the best skill sets out of all the quarterbacks we'll ever see play. But there's more to it. You got to put it together. You have to win games, right? And I think that's what makes Tom Brady so great.
No, I think
Because even though Tom Brady
think the team
necessarily on
failed.
paper doesn't have like the best skill set or anything like that,
He's a better QB.
he's a better QB because he's a better winner, he's a better leader, and I'm not gonna say smarter, but he's a little bit more of a
He has the winning intangibles. You
Yes.
want to go to war with Tom Brady.
yeah. I agree. I'll give you that.
no, I won't give you that.
Okay, go ahead.
That team has been atrociously put around him. Like, he has no weapons. Like, the best running back he had last year, they didn't even start him until towards the end of the season.
But I think you're forgetting that Eli's saying he's a good quarterback. Like Eli's saying he's top
I'm not-
5.
I'm not
But what
saying
he's
a
just
bad
saying is that he
quarterback.
feels like other people talk about Aaron Rodgers as if he's better than that top 5. In reality, he's probably maybe the number 5.
I would put him 4.
So
But I
maybe
think a lot of
3 or
people
4
have
guys
him
would
rated
have
around
above
that.
him.
No, not at all.
Brady, Breeze, Mahomes.
And then you can start to argue guys like Andrew Luck, who's been playing amazing.
Yeah, I guess you could make an argument for him at
you
4.
can start making arguments with a lot of guys now with Aaron Rodgers, where in the media and the eyes of a lot of people, he's been this great quarterback for so long and he's the standard, where he's not. I don't think so. I think the best thing he's done in his career outside of a Super Bowl is a 5-second appearance on Game of Thrones. That's just what I think.
Chill, he dated Danica Danica.
Yeah, okay.
or whatever
That's
her name
actually
is.
even better than the Super Bowl. But besides that, he's really hasn't done anything since that Super Bowl. That's all I'm saying. And I disagree with you guys. I do think he has had a lot of weapons. Greg Jennings has been great. He's had guys like
But that was during the time when he was considered one of the top 2 quarterbacks.
I think Devontae Adams has been one of the best wide receivers in the league for the last 3 years.
But do you think that's Devontae Adams or do you think that's Aaron Rodgers?
Oh, it's Devontae Adams. Look at his footwork. Look at his size. That guy is a monster.
Maybe
You
I
could
think
put
it's a combination of both.
You could put
Yeah.
Adams on another team and he would do just as well.
I disagree with that.
No, I agree. It depends on where you're
Where do
putting
you
him
put
and what
Devontae
quarterbacks.
Adams as a what? Go ahead, Nando, before I ask this.
Just a quick thing. I think that with Aaron Rodgers, he's a pretty marketable guy, and the NFL has marketed him kind of a lot. So I feel like maybe why a lot of people still think he's so high is because they see a lot of exposure for him, and they're used to maybe seeing him as like that go-to guy. I don't know if he's had a lot of weapons besides Devontae Adams.
I mean,
these past couple years.
I get what you're saying. He's one of the faces of the NFL. I mean, he's discount double check. It's a huge thing.
Exactly, but to credits of what you were saying with Big Ben, he's a horrible leader. He's had so many fights amongst. He's the reason why Greg Jennings left. He's the reason why Mike McCarthy is fired. He's the reason why a lot of turmoil has happened in that
The
franchise
reason
the
Mike
last 3
McCarthy's
years.
fired is because Mike McCarthy
Was
underproduced.
Yeah.
As a
And I
coach.
think so did Aaron Rodgers. But anyways, he has a lot of turmoil with a lot of people. Even his own brother doesn't even like him. Aaron Rodgers, I think he's overrated. I'm going to leave it at that.
You know what? At first, when you said it, I was really, really against it. But I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah,
and I
because you
agree
just
a
have to
little bit.
understand I'm not taking anything away from him as a player.
He's still a great
He's
player.
still a great quarterback.
He's just not as great as what people say. That
That's
makes
all.
sense.
And that's what would make you overrated.
Well,
You
I
know
think
who
he's
else doesn't
popularly
like him?
rated.
Olivia Munn.
Man, I'm not gonna lie. That guy must be doing something right, though. Right?
Discount double check.
That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
So moving on from football, I want to talk about your boy Vlad Jr. Eli,
Yes, sir.
Toronto Blue Jays, finally heating up. At first, like the first, I'd say week or two, it was like he couldn't hit anything. He was
Yeah.
like
He was a
batting
little
like-
cold.
yeah, he was batting like 2 something. Like it wasn't impressive. And then he just, I mean, I think he's hit like 4 or 5 home runs in the last like 7 days, and he's heating up big time. So what I want to ask you guys is, the expectations with Vlad Jr. Where do you see him, 5-10 years down the line in terms of, some of the, against some of the greats.
So with Vlad Jr., of course, being Vlad Jr., he's getting compared to his dad, Vladimir Guerrero, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is very high. Vladimir Guerrero has been one of the best players in baseball over the last 2 decades.
Solid 5-tool player.
Absolutely great player, right? So that comparison alone is hard to live up to. So he has a big challenge ahead of him, but I think he can do it. Just watching him hit, he looks just like his dad.
He does. I think the problem that I have with Vlad Jr. is that his defense is subpar for third base.
It might be, but he hasn't made an error yet this season. So until he does,
he hasn't. But he's been out for like 3 weeks now. Where I think Vlad Sr. was heralded as having one of the best arms of all time. He was a decent fielder even later in his day. Obviously he became a DH later on, but I think what's going to end up happening with Vlad Jr. is he's going to end up being a career DH, like a
David Ortiz.
Yeah, exactly. I think he profiles as that kind of guy more than he does his dad, which is still a great player.
How much do you think it kind of goes into a player's mind playing under the shadow of somebody so great, especially when it's like your dad or something like that?
So I think maybe earlier on his career, minor leagues, getting drafted, I think it looms over your head big time. And you're like, man, I need to, now I'm starting to make steps towards the big leagues. But I think once he's here,
you get comfortable in your own feet.
You have to. If you're a top tier player, you're going to have to. Maybe for the first couple weeks,
in which we saw
he's struggling, but I don't think you can attest that to him living in his dad's shadow. That's just, a kid,
trying to live out his dream. And
he's 20. He's young.
Yeah. And now that he's on a tear, I think it just solidifies the fact that he's his own man and he can make a name of his own in the league. And you know what? I think they end up becoming one of the best father-son duos in baseball history. I mean, you got Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr., and then you got Bobby Bonds and Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
And I think they're right up there. I think they will be right up there. But, I mean, your Blue Jays got all, Hall of Famers and Legends sons. They're calling up Craig Biggio's son tomorrow, actually.
I'm excited for that. We're a bad team, so we're going to call up everybody. I'm also excited, not just Craig, but when Dante Bichette Jr. gets healthy again, that's another monster.
And we talked about it on one of our early podcasts, like a lot of Hall of Famers and Legends sons are making into the league. And I think these guys are perform at such a high level, and they've gotten to a point where there's no way that they're thinking about.
And I think it's well deserved. It's not because of the name. It's not like, oh, these guys are here because they're so-and-so's son.
Exactly.
These guys are actually great players.
Yeah, Vlad Jr. could hit.
But yeah,
he just hits.
So as a righty, he has one of the smoothest swings I've seen in a very, very long time, which you don't really see that much from right-handed batters.
Raw power too.
Raw power. A great eye at the plate. If he can just improve his defense a little bit, he's going to end up becoming a full-time first baseman at some point in his career.
I'm sure I could see it. Unless he surprises you and he cuts down a little bit. And
if he cuts down a little bit, he works on...
Hey, I'll say this. Look at Pablo Sandoval. He's been playing third base at 400 pounds for how long now?
Yo, chill. He's not 400 pounds, one. And two, I wouldn't consider him a good third baseman.
He's not, but he does enough to keep his position. I think it's granted because of his offensive powers, and he's had some tears in the postseason for San Francisco.
Yeah, well, he had a couple down years with the Red Sox, but I guess he's an average player now.
Yeah, definitely older.
But I think Vlad Jr. He's projected as one of the best of this generation, or what he's supposed to be. I think he can live up to it.
So that's what I was going to ask. If you guys just want to go around, do you think he lives up to the name and the hype?
I think it's really early, but I see in the future, yeah, he will.
I think it's all going to be based off of how well he adjusts to when pitchers start getting a book on him, getting scouting reports.
I agree. It's a little early, but you could just tell, like with some guys, when they just get up to the batter's plate and then they just they kind of give that stance and they swing away. He looks like one of those special players. So
I agree. Sometimes just the eye test is all you need, and he passes that eye test.
I think he just has that it factor. I mean. Homie's hitting 450-foot bombs.
Yeah.
Yeah, this early.
You know who also passes the eye test? My boy Pete Alonso. Continues to rake.
So I don't think he passes the eye test. He looks weird to me, but that guy's a monster.
He has 16 home runs right now. He's leading our team with 16.
He's tearing it up.
He might make a run for NL Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, he's definitely tearing it up. One other question about Vlad. Damn, I just forgot it. So continue.
I just wanted to let everybody know that I called that out before the season even started. I said, hey, watch out for this guy. And I've said it on multiple podcasts, and he's tearing it up. I think those two guys end up being your AL and NL Rookie of the Year.
Oh, yeah, I got it. Sorry.
So far.
I got it. So, Vlad, all this expectation, can we go back in time and think of any other players coming up? Has there been anybody who's had this amount of pressure as a minor leaguer coming into? Because I know there's been guys like the guys that I can think, Bryce Harper, Steven Strasburg. Those are two guys that I really think of.
If you bring it back a little bit further, I mean, it's less then because now you have like social media and stuff, so it amps things up a little bit more. But I think even like A-Rod came up as an 18-year-old.
Yeah, well, A-Rod he's just a whole different story. That guy's a legend.
I'm just saying that those are guys that came up and they were
lived up to
expected
the hype
to perform immediately and lived up to the hype. But I think the biggest one is Bryce Harper, and he's also one of the biggest ones to not necessarily live up to the hype, in my opinion.
That's tough. I'm a Bryce fan.
That's tough to say.
I disagree.
People were comparing him to Mickey Mantle.
Deservingly so. The man was hitting bombs.
But he hasn't played like that. He had one season like that in the league. Out of maybe 8-9 seasons.
Bryce is still an all-star in this league.
He's still an all-star. He was, speaking of overrated and underrated, he was overrated. He's still a great player.
He's the Aaron Rodgers of the MLB.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Trout's another guy I could think of that had high hopes.
No. Trout came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Really? I remember hearing a lot of hype.
He was a first-round pick, so he had had a lot of hype. But I don't think anybody expected him to be the next coming of freaking Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah, Trout exceeded expectations by far.
Yeah, I don't think anybody saw him becoming the best player in baseball.
Yeah.
So while we're on baseball, and I feel like I talk about my Mets a lot, but it brings up a good question. So I don't know if you guys heard Yoenis Cespedes. He was
what a name, by the way.
A great, strong name. So last season he had surgery on both of his heels. And he was projected to make a return like the middle of this season. And he was rehabbing in Miami where he owns a ranch. And apparently on his ranch, he broke his ankle, supposedly, doing non-baseball activities. So now the Mets are thinking about going after his contract, right? Finding loopholes in his contract to void out that contract so they're not paying him the $27 million that they owe him for doing nothing. But it begs a question for me of, do teams start thinking about getting more stringent in their contracts of what they allow players to do off the field? Granted, already there's stipulations in certain players' contracts where they can't like ride ATVs, they can't go like dirt bike, surfing, basketball, none of that. What I'm saying is, do you put a clause in there where if you get hurt not playing the sport that you're contracted for, does it void out your contract if you miss a certain amount of time?
I think there's a fine line because there can be a freak accident that, you didn't expect. What about a car accident? Things like that you don't expect that's non-sport related. That's not your fault. So that's why I think it's very tricky. I think it has to be like apparel, something that's named, right? Like basketball, ATV. I think maybe you can just name more things to make it more stricter. But I can't say that, if a guy breaks his ankle because he slips and falls down the stairs, that he deserves, to lose his money.
Well, I'm not saying freak accidents. I'm saying doing things that, knowing that you're making $27 million a year, you probably shouldn't be putting yourself in a situation like if you're playing basketball, right? Or if you're on a ranch the big theory is that he was riding his horse, which anyone that knows Yoenis Cespedes, he loves to ride horses. And that's the big theory, that he was riding his horse and he broke his ankle riding his horse.
Yeah, he was with Lil Nas.
Who knows? But I think when you're doing stuff like that, you should be smarter.
Sorry, guys. Nando, I know you want to say something, but the Toronto Raptors just beat the Bucks, so we're up 3-2, baby. Let's go.
I mean, that's a great win for them.
What I wanted to say is, I think it's also a fine line too, because if you start putting all these restrictions and all these limitations, then it impacts your life, like in general. Because let's say you want to go hiking or something, you got to be careful now just to do that because you could potentially get hurt. I don't know. You shouldn't be having all these limitations on there. I don't think.
I think teams should just be given the avenue to be able to go after a guy's contract if they're doing something that is putting themselves at
I
risk.
agree, man. Playing sports in high school, I wasn't even allowed to participate in gym when I had a game.
Yeah.
So these guys are getting paid mad money. Yeah, they should have the same.
Yeah.
type of-
And, bro, in high school, there was kids that I played with that weren't allowed to play multi sports. Like if they were a star of one of the of the baseball team, they weren't allowed in the fall to play something else or anything like that, just for risk of injury.
yeah.
So the single reason why I don't believe there should be a clause to void their contract is these teams have insurances on those contracts. So if these players get hurt, they actually get kickback from the insurance company for these contracts. For example, another Met, David Wright, when he was injured, like huge chunk of that,
But they only get a percentage back.
they got 75%.
So Doug, talk to me about the premiums on these insurance.
He's an insurance agent now. But 75%, yeah, it's a lot. You're getting a lot back, but
Yeah.
that means you're still paying for a guy that's not playing for you, that did that to himself. I don't know. I think they should be able to go after the entire contract.
I think if they're doing like one of those sports, like for example, you said jet skiing, stuff like that, then yeah, that should be obviously
That's what I'm saying.
voided.
If they're putting themselves in situations that just
But I'm talking about if he's just horseback riding on his ranch and he gets hurt. That's
But you
To
shouldn't
me,
be
that's a little
horseback
bit too
riding.
much.
Because that's a
Horseback-
danger.
horseback riding is actually pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that's more of lifestyle living, especially if he owns a
That's,
ranch. More
so
than,
you don't think he should horseback ride until he retires?
No, just in the off. Oh.
He's still gonna get injured if he
Yeah.
gets in the off season.
I don't think. I think you run the risk. Do it on your own means. Go ahead. But I think if you get hurt, the team should be allowed to go after the contract.
No,
not
that's
gonna
why
say
they
that-
have these insurance.
Maybe a
premiums on these.
percentage of the contract. I don't know. We're not lawyers, okay? But I agree with Danny of what he's trying to say.
I think at some point, if they miss a certain amount of time because it's their fault, they should be the contract should be allowed to be voided. You know,
But if I'm a player, I wouldn't sign that contract.
I mean, if they're paying you $30 million a year,
And then something crazy happens.
once again, we're not
Yeah.
talking about freak accidents, Doug.
Yeah, but if I want to go horseback riding,
This is a
and
really
they're not
good
allowing me
topic,
to do
guys.
it,
It is. It is.
If you want to go horseback riding, you're doing that at your own risk, but it's a dangerous activity.
yeah, that's why I wouldn't sign a contract that.
But
would
if you're
say
doing a
it's
dangerous
voided.
activity on your own volition, if you're doing that dangerous activity and you get hurt doing that, that's 100% your fault. That's not the team's fault. The team should be able to get out of that bad contract then. Because you might never be the same after that. Heaven forbid, let's say you get paralyzed horseback, right? You can never play baseball again. The team still has to pay you? Or the team only gets 75% of their contract back? Absolutely not. That needs to be
teams
I
take
don't
a
know
risk
if-
signing players.
It's tough because you're taking a risk on these guys, and maybe that's part of the risk.
But I don't think it's something that's black or white. I just think that they should be given the avenue to make a case to void out the contract.
So they should be able to take it to court.
Exactly. Have a third party arbitrator.
I'll agree with that.
Okay.
I would
I'll
love
agree
for the
with
Mets to void out his contract. He's played 36 games in the last 2 years.
So you're talking as a Mets fan right now,
I'm just talking in
as
general.
an angry Mets fan.
I'm talking in general. If I'm an owner of a team and I'm paying a guy millions of dollars and he goes out there, granted, this is all based on hearsay. Who knows what was happening with Cespedes? But if a guy gets hurt doing something that he wasn't supposed to, I'm sorry. It's a business.
Okay.
I got to get my money back.
I agree with both of your points. I think you guys both made really good points, actually. And I hate to say that about Doug, but he made a really good point.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you guys love going up against me. That's all good.
Because you're a bum.
Uh,
I was trying
Jimmy,
to refrain from saying it, but it just
bring up the next topic, because this is a new topic that we're introducing to the Prospect Talk podcast, because we don't talk about this a lot.
so. And I wanted to bring this up because I was watching. I was just watching the highlights from
Wilder?
the Wilder fight where he knocked out the dude in the first round. Which is great for boxing. It's great for boxing to see
Absolutely.
like that, and it makes headlines. You have something like that. But my question is, why do you guys think that boxing has kind of fallen by the wayside in terms of popularity in recent years? And how do you think you can rectify that?
Well, I'm going to go first, because I think there's not a villain in boxing. And I think that is why ratings have gone down. When boxing has been at its peak, there's been a lot of villains. Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather.
You know what? I wouldn't even say villain if you just have a very dominant fighter. Because boxing was big when you had Muhammad Ali. And I don't know if you can classify him as a villain.
He's not a villain.
He was controversial, but not a villain.
Yeah, but that's when boxing was in its prime. To answer the question, why has it fallen off in the last, we'll say, 10 years?
Yeah.
I would say there's not that guy to root against or root for. No matter what's happening, you want to see him box. Because either you love him for his antics or you hate him. And that's what Mayweather has been. That's what Mike Tyson has been. And not to cross the sports, but UFC, that's what Conor McGregor has been. And that's why that sport has fallen off a little bit too in ratings.
Yeah, because they don't have that same that so guy.
You wouldn't say that Mayweather has been that guy?
I just said no. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but he's saying that
Mayweather has been the villain, but he hasn't been in boxing for the last 2 to 3 years, and that's
not
why.
Even a little bit more than that. Technically, if you're considered competitive, I don't count the thing with McGregor as competitive.
Oh yeah, that was just he robbed us all.
That was just just trying to make money.
That was entertainment.
So here's my problem with boxing, right? And for anybody that just keeps up with like big fights, I would say the last 3 or 4 big fights that even casual fans will go like to someone's house and watch or like buy the fight have been Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
The Triple G and Canelo Alvarez.
Both of them.
Both fights, right? So for the casual fan, which I'm going to consider myself a casual boxing fan. I'm not going to say I'm a...
I think we all are in this room.
I might be a little bit... I might know a little bit more than average, but let's just put me in there as a casual. As a casual boxing fan, I watch those fights, and as someone that's never boxed before, doesn't know all the little details and nuances of the match, what I see versus what's on the scorecards don't match up. For instance, the last fight with Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, that fight looked the entire time like, if you just give it the eye test, if I'm someone and I'm watching like a street fight and I watch that same fight, I'm like, you know what? Tyson Fury won that fight. And I think that was the consensus. But then the scorecards come back and it's something different. Now, you can go down the whole route of whether boxing is rigged or whatever you want to do. But I think that's bad for boxing when you have a casual fan just watching a fight for the first time and saying, well, this is bullshit because what I just witnessed for the last hour doesn't make sense according to the scorecards.
Well, that's what boxing is, you know? I think they do that to keep people engaged, actually, to get them talking about it.
But I think it does the opposite. It turns people off. Because they're like, why should I watch something where the outcome is not really the true outcome? Because then it just provides a whole bunch of conspiracy theories like it's rigged.
Yeah, but like the good old saying, you know, bad publicity is still good publicity, right? And I think if you're going into a movie and you know how the movie is going to end and it ends that way, it's good. You talk about it for a day, but then it's done. But if it doesn't end the way you think it should, we're going to be talking about it a little bit longer. And I think that's the avenue boxing maybe has taken. And I'm not saying it's rigged, which it kind of sounds like I am, but that's the avenue it kind of seems like it's taken because there is not big names in boxing anymore.
Well, the golden boy of boxing right now is Canelo Alvarez, and he has
zero personality. Yeah, agreed.
I mean, it doesn't help that there's a language barrier because, you know, he's Mexican. He doesn't really...
But still, there's been some great Mexican fighters who...
There has.
Yeah. And Spanish ones. Who's the one that...
Julio Cesar Chavez?
Yes.
Oscar de la Hoya?
Yes.
Yeah, so those guys... They had great personalities. I mean, look at Oscar de la Hoya. He's one of the biggest promoters in boxing now. I think the combination of not having a bona fide star and boxing not being appealing to casual fans is really hurting their sport.
I think what else, I mean, you brought it up a little while ago, UFC. I mean, a lot of people are, you know, behind UFC now. The sport is a little bit more intense. So I feel like they kind of maybe forgotten about boxing for all the things we mentioned.
Very true.
And then there's a lot of excitement in UFC.
UFC is a little bit easier to watch if you're a casual fan because you can tell when someone's getting the shit beat out of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a combat sport that's a little bit more appealing.
You see that on the scorecards, or you see when somebody gets knocked out. It's obvious. When you have stuff that's tossed up in the air where you don't know what's going to happen and the result doesn't match what's actually, you know, what you're watching, it's going to turn people off to the game, and unfortunately, it's not going to attract more viewers as you're losing viewers.
I kind of think boxing has the baseball effect, where people don't know how to score it, so they don't really know the rules of boxing either. So
the only thing is now even the boxing loyalists are starting to turn away from boxing and watch other sports, whereas a true baseball loyalist is going to watch baseball regardless.
I guess. I think honestly too, it has a lot to do with what Nando was saying with UFC. That has taken over.
Being more exciting.
Yeah.
And Dana White has done a great job of making it literally like a household thing nowadays.
Promoting it and marketing it.
Yeah,
boxing.
I feel like boxing has a marketing issue, especially to casual fans. Like if you're a diehard boxing fan, like they'll find you actually have to go out and look for certain fights.
Exactly. Like you're not gonna go watch like a Danny Jacobs fight, or you're not gonna go watch like an Adrian Broner fight.
Yeah.
Like that's just not.
Chill.
Gonna
I might
happen.
watch my boy AB because he talks mad shit.
Like if you're a casual fan, unless you're a fan of that guy, you're not gonna go watch those things. Whereas a lot of other sports, like I mean, even soccer, you'll just casually watch on TV. You'll casually catch it.
And I think a lot of the boxers, like the upcoming talent, are moving more towards UFC. Just because it seems more appealing. Seems like unless you're a huge star like Floyd Mayweather, there isn't as much money.
He's their best advertiser, their best marketer, and he's out of the game, so that's why it's taking a huge hit.
I don't know.
Yeah.
As someone that I grew up watching boxing, I was never really a big fan, but I used to enjoy it. I am slowly turned off by watching boxing, and every time there's a big fight coming around, I'd just rather not watch it and just watch the
Do we
highlights.
ever see it coming back to what it was?
I think once it gets a big name star, I think
You need to have a big personality.
it's
I think you need to have multiple.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because the biggest super fight right now, technically speaking, is the Triple G fight versus Canelo Alvarez. That's the biggest rivalry.
But
and neither of the guys have big personalities, so nobody really cares.
Yeah, I don't think it could ever. It might not reach like the heights that you saw with like Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali or kind of those big names, but you'll find, I guess, every couple of years one big guy who comes in and who draws a lot of attention and then maybe fades away after a couple of years.
I think the only thing they have right now is Deontay Wilder. Like before that knockout, did you hear his speech?
Well, chill. He's talking about trying to kill people in the ring.
He said boxing
he's a monster.
is the only way you can legally kill a man.
Yeah, and
but I mean, he's right. But I don't think the goal should be out there to try to
absolutely
really
not.
damage someone.
But that brought a lot of attention, and he almost killed the guy.
He's a psychopath.
Chill, but let me see Deontay Wilder step into the octagon. Let me see how long he lasts.
I think he can still catch somebody with a good one.
I think the biggest thing that hurt boxing is all the research on head injuries and concussions and everything like that.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think also seeing like what happened to Muhammad Ali, like one of the best of all time, and then him getting Parkinson's, and it just wasn't a good look. And I mean, no one's meant to get punched in the face that many times.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate. It's a great sport. Well, not as much anymore, but I hope it returns to its glory. I think with that said, I mean, that pretty much wraps up everything that we got going on today, right?
Yeah.
So thanks for listening. Catch us on our social media.
Catch us on the social media this week, guys. We have a contest going on. You're going to really like this one, all right? I'm not going to spoil too much of it.
Just tease it. Just check out the social media.
Just tune in. You're going to have an opportunity to win something again.
Yeah. With that, we
appreciate it, guys. Tune in next week.
We're out.
Peace.